House's hospital merger plan. Tom Peter Piper picked a peck of pick. How's it playing?
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Live tape. Got to go just to get ready to do the show. You know, it's speech therapy 101. Nice to have you aboard. It's a very human experience here on Dan York State of Mind, no doubt. Speaking of very human, Karl Wadensten is in here this evening. He is a unique person in our community, a spokesman in part for, I think, the manufacturing community, and he has been ringing telephones, I'm told, throughout the state, concerned about the lifespan complaint and the Care New England merger with partners that we have pretty readily covered here on the program. So we'll dig into that momentarily. Great to have you aboard. Do your phonetic exercises on your own. In the meantime, let's get to yesterday's big story, and this, which was expected late in the game, that the Senate Judiciary Committee would reject this bill. The senator from Smithfield had much to do with that. Here's the story as it was chronicled yesterday by Eyewitness News.
The Democratic Senate president escorted from his office by a sheriff as pro-choice protesters streamed in, demanding a floor vote on reproductive rights after the Reproductive Health Care Act failed in Senate Judiciary.
The count is 4 to 5 for no, the bill fails.
Senators giving their reasons before the vote.
Based on biblical principles from the Creator, I'll be voting in opposition to both these bills.
I am personally against abortion. I am a senator, though, and I'm serving in a secular office.
This bill protects the status quo in Rhode Island. Nothing more.
Heading into this week, Democratic Senator Stephen Archambault was thought to be the swing vote. He announced late Monday he would vote against the legislation because he thinks the exception allowing late-term abortions for the health of the mother is too broad.
I'm not comfortable with the language in 152A, and I want to be real clear. I'm committed to supporting a woman's right to choose and codifying Roe v. Wade.
After the bill failed, though, the committee did not vote on the identical House bill, the Reproductive Privacy Act, that passed the House in March, instead holding it for further study, leaving the door open for the committee to amend it.
We received a bill and we were told, vote it now, no amendments. And that's not the way that this process works.
You know, tonight was absolutely a disappointment. I feel the anger and fear of women around this country.
The lead sponsor of the Senate bill, Senator Gail Golden, says she's looking into next steps to get an abortion rights bill to the governor's desk.
I'm always hopeful until the day we leave this building.
Listen, there's going to be plenty of time for the legislature to act on a remedy should Roe v. Wade be reorganized in some way and discharged to the states for our own legislative definitions. Now look, it ain't Alabama. I mean, Alabama just kind of more or less sent it up the pipeline, or is trying to. We'll see what the governor does down there, but they more or less made abortion illegal in just about every case other than the health of the mother, including incest and rape. That did not qualify for an excuse to have an abortion in Alabama. That from their legislature. We'll see what's going on there, but that's probably going to be the case that funnels up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And I'll tell you, I'm ready to put a couple bucks down here now that they're not going to do a thing with it. But this notion that it was just simply a codification is a little bit of a stretch. The big contentious issue is the definition of the word health and how it pertains to the discretion of a woman in late-term status and a doctor. I think this kind of thing can be readily worked out in the legislature if all parties want to do that. So time will tell. Senator Lou Raptakis, who's on that Senate Judiciary Committee, will be my guest on tomorrow night's show. And I just want to say this, anybody who wants to speak on that issue from a legislative point of view, for some reason Democrats and those who are speaking vehemently for these women's issues, as they would say, are hesitant to come on and talk about that stuff. This is an easy place to get your point across. You know, after 5.5 years of doing this television program and near 20 years on the radio, I think it's fairly clear that anybody with a point of view that might be different from mine is handled with diplomacy. Your play. In the meantime, the governor is signing this evergreen bill. I mentioned it yesterday. This is a debacle. This is just too bad. And mayors are now trying to regroup over all of this whole thing. One of the silliest things I heard discussed over this was that the Speaker of the House, in this late-minute meeting with the mayors the day before the bill was signed, asked the mayors to tell him what was going to happen to their cash flow immediately. In other words, make the point. How's that going to hurt you? And none of them could say it hurts immediately because it all has to do with the next contract. It's not like the sky falls down immediately. The sky never falls down immediately around Rhode Island. It's just a slow drip. All right, but don't ever think that we're not leading the league in something. We have the first autonomous vehicle that is now parading around the State House and down through Olneyville, about a 20-25 minute shuttle. Seats 6 people. The governor took a ride in it, so did the mayor. And I don't know, you're going to get in a little thing like that with a bunch of strangers? I'm not so sure. I'm not exactly sure what the practical application of this whole thing is. And if I saw the reporting correctly, the operator, which for the most part is hands-free, had to, in an intersection, grab the wheel and adjust, which to me, call me a pessimist, defeats the purpose, doesn't it? Anyway, here's the conversation for tonight. Care New England, partners. This is one of the big issues. We talked to the Attorney General about this last night. You'll hear a clip of that coming up here. But Karl Wadensten, who owns Vibeco, a manufacturing company in southern Rhode Island, in a place called Wyoming. Did you know we had one? Returns to the set.
Thanks for having me.
You're making announcements? You're running for anything?
No. You're running for head of household. Haven't you ever seen that show?
Oh, is that right?
Head of household. My wife's held
how's
the role for a long time.
It's going. You're still in second place?
Yes, still in second place.
Oh,
first last.
I'm told that you're ringing the phones. I know you called me,
Yeah.
but others are telling me that you've been pretty proactive about this.
Yeah.
And who are you speaking for? Yourself, your company, the manufacturing industry? Do you think you sit on the Commerce Board? I know. By the way, Carl's the only person who voted no on 38 Studios way back when. Way back when. Give me your executive summary of what you're worried about, and then we'll dig into it.
Well, you know, the speed of what's happening with this, you know, how quickly they're trying to go through this is one worry. You know, the same type of scenario that happened way back when we look at big deals that have profound effect on us, I don't think it reaches the light of day or the clarity of the conversations that we need to have. The thing that hits home with me right away is the potential for healthcare costs going up dramatically, because it's about 20%, 18 to 20% of our cost of goods sold in manufacturing. So we have 100 and change people at our organization, right? Annual spend is about $1 million on healthcare, right? So it's a significant number. And we try and control that as much as we can, but we're subject to what the system is and what the system pays. So you have someone from a Boston-based area coming into Rhode Island, right? They already have a huge infrastructure, and they have beautiful healthcare in Boston. There's no doubt. You hear Rhode Islanders all the time wanting to go to Boston. We have great healthcare, beautiful healthcare here, but this going over the border is a significant increase in cost, and that's how you pay your premium. How much did you spend? What was your exposure?
All right. Well, we'll talk about whether that actually will be the case or not, and how that will be reviewed when we come back. Stay with us. So here's a recap, kind of a summary as to where we are.
State regulators are now reviewing the proposed takeover of women and infants owner Care New England by Boston-based Partners Healthcare, and Lifespan, which owns Rhode Island Hospital, has recently become a vocal critic of the deal.
This isn't about competition, Tim. It's about doing what we think is in the best interest of our community.
Lifespan President and CEO Dr. Timothy Babineau denies their opposition is about concerns over losing patients to partners.
And we have real concerns based on sort of past experience that if Partners does come into the market, that more care will leave the state. Our ability to provide that care going forward will be really severely diminished.
Lifespan and Care New England have tried and failed to merge twice before, but Babineau says it's time to try again.
Think about it for a minute. Finally, after all these years, the folks who work at Care New England, the folks who work at Lifespan, being on the same team. Being on the same team for our patients, being on the same electronic health care record, being on the same set of protocols. That would be spectacular.
In a statement, a spokesperson for Care New England says, in part, this acquisition will keep care local and affordable and improve infrastructure and create opportunities for the expansion of ambulatory care and jobs.
So there you have it. I mean, this is a hard thing to evaluate. And let me just add that Peter Nerona, the Attorney General, was here last night and talked a little bit about his role in reviewing this whole process. Know that there's a application process that has to be finished, deemed complete by the Department of Health and the Attorney General, and then there's a 90-day review.
It was my priority when I got to the office was to make sure that nothing was secondary to that partners team. What I'm going to see and what I'm going to be interested in is what's filed in the public sector. Everybody's going to have a right to weigh in. You know, we want to make sure we have everything so that when we trigger that 90-day review process, we can get it done, obviously, in that 90-day period. And again, this is a really complicated transaction with a lot of questions that we've got to get answered.
So it's going to be an interesting review period. I'm guessing you'll be speaking up during that review period.
So, yeah.
All right. What is this notion that you're seemingly convinced that health care expenses for companies and employees will go up with a merger between Care New England and Partners, Brigham and Women's in Boston?
So remember, you said, Dan, that this thing has a lot of moving pieces, more than anything else I think that we could have ever done in our state. You know, Paw Sox, Hasbro, whatever, 38 studios back in the day. This has a long-term effect on us. It's hundreds of millions of dollars. But the piece that I get nervous for is that you have a group like Partners that is extremely proficient at what they do up in Boston. And they have an infrastructure set up at a moderate cost or a high cost, but they have a system that works. You're going to come into Rhode Island. Are they going to invest $200, $300, $400 million in Rhode Island to get us up to the caliber that these organizations, Kent, Butler, and
well, the transaction is about Care New England borrowing money on the Partners' ledger.
On their ledger, and,
yes.
And they're charitable asset. They're a community charitable asset as well. This is why we're going through the Attorney General. But let me get back to the fear of the cost. The cost in Boston in general, if you look at what a manufacturer our size in Boston pays for health care and what their costs are, is anywhere from 20 to 30% higher, because the business community, we have friends that have similar size facilities, right? And with those costs going up, this is what you pay for in your premium. I'm just nervous about, you know, the cap in Boston is much higher, you know, for healthcare cost. We have OHIC. Did you hear about OHIC? Office of Health Insurance Commissioner, that we kind of put a cap on it. We're the only state in the union that has this. So if you're going in for cardiac surgery, that they have a ceiling on it. You can't just blow past that number that's acceptable to be reimbursed with. Massachusetts is much higher. Massachusetts Attorney General is trying to fight an oligopoly or monopoly of Partners being the only guys that are challenging them on costs. You saw the cases that I sent down about what they want to do. They want to have the power to reap the rewards from health insurance reimbursements and money. And that gets me nervous. The more I read about it, the more I get nervous about it.
Well, there are remedies that the public is going to have to talk about, and that the health commissioner, the health department, and the attorney general in their own auspice, in their own lanes, are going to have to weigh in on before this whole thing is approved. And one of them might be caps on health insurance costs, and or what the hybrid of a patient who is at Kent Hospital, who then is referred for surgery up to Brigham and Women's, might have to pay. Right now, that's unclear.
is very unclear.
So I'm not sure. I think it's responsible to raise the question. I'm not sure it's responsible to deduct that that's absolutely going to happen. I think that's part of the application and review process that we have to engage in. Clearly, Lifespan has decided that it's going to look very professional on the television sets and in the radio studios. Dr. Badbano certainly was when he was with me, and I'm hoping he'll come back here and do what Dr. Jim Finale from Care New England did, to do both programs. And I've had some volley back and forth between them when they make assertions about each other's companies. But their ad campaign is a whole lot more alarming in nature than their business discussions of this, and I'm not exactly sure where the truth lies. Yes. And the truth is about 6 or 7 or 8 different things.
Yeah. So there's another piece that I get concerned for, is that Rhode Island is invested heavily in meds and eds. Right, I've heard this on the Commerce Board. I've served through 3 administrations, Kachiri, Chafee, and now with Governor Raimondo, and the I-195 and the Innovation District. I mean, our conversations every other board meeting is about how do we build this? How do we build communities of doctors that want to stay here? How do we build communities of nurses that want to stay here? How do we get them to stay here? And from my perspective as a business owner, that the goal was be better than Boston. Everything's going across the state line. Now all of a sudden you're inviting your competition that we're fixated on. How do we get better, and how do we deliver higher quality here in our state and have this long tail of innovation? And it just kind of goes against my grain that if we're inviting Boston in and we want Boston to be part of our meds and eds, then tell me what the plan is. Tell me that Boston Partners is going to take us there.
Well, the Attorney General said something here yesterday that I think was really, really important. He said, we don't have a plan.
No plan is a bad plan.
We don't have an overarching, in writing, committed, both administrative and statutory plan about what healthcare in totality is going to look like in this state. What we do is we regulate movement. We regulate companies. We set bars for care and cost of care and that kind of stuff, but there is no grand plan. And Lifespan and Care New England probably merge like this, like a jigsaw puzzle, completed. But between the 2 administrations, it's been a 30-year effort for those 2 companies to do this. And so when we come back, we should talk about the leadership, because Karl mentioned the Pawsox, 38 Studios, maybe Hasbro. They have very much a lot in common with this conversation. Next.
If we want to do the best job caring for our patients, in today's day and age, we need to have access to a broader array of services and programs. And so to me, this means, this vision is, let's take better care of our patients. By working with the Brigham, we have a better platform for quality. We have access to a broader array of programs and services. And again, we've been undercapitalized for years, and the ability to have access to capital to fix our buildings is important.
Dr. Jim Finale, who was here just a couple of weeks ago, remember, he runs Care New England, which is Bradley,
Women and Infants,
and of course there's a technical
Providence
problem.
Center and VNA.
Right, and of course Memorial Hospital, which is now defunct, and has limited facilities, and of course Pawtucket is looking for more emergency facilities and trying to work a deal out past this merger that probably will have nothing to do with Care New England and partners in that takeover or that merger. Here's the interesting thing: you sit with the administrations of each of these fine companies, and you're convinced that they're doing the right thing, individually, in silos.
Yep.
What's going to be interesting here is the overview by the Department of Health and the Attorney General. But what is clearly missing, as plain as the nose in our collective faces, is the leadership out of the State House and the governor, once again, who's going to follow this process as opposed to lead it.
Yeah, this is
Pawsox,
active role.
See ya. I don't know what camera I'm on. Pawsox, see ya. 38 Studios prior, another administration, just didn't see the forest from the trees, through the trees, around the trees, by the trees. And Hasbro right now we'll see who's got a hand on that. When the governor just beat up on the Pawtucket mayor the other day, blaming him for a press conference where he actually had the audacity to even mention Hasbro. It says to me that there's a setup here. This is the most important issue the state has ever seen.
No, the most, because it affects all of us.
Why
our healthcare.
isn't Care New England, Lifespan, prior to this, locked up in a room with as much pizza as they can wolf down, and nobody comes out until they try to figure this whole thing out? There is a place for public policy leadership in this place, and we don't have it.
It's getting out in front of it, Dan. It's getting out in front of it and controlling the trajectory.
And so now, as one top official told me recently, no matter what happens, whether this Partners Care New England deal is approved, or whether Lifespan is successful in stopping it, which is what they're trying to do, this notion that Lifespan just wants to let everybody know what the facts are is baloney. They're trying to stop it. You don't put an ad campaign out calling it alarming unless you're trying to stop it. We may not know for 5 or 10 years whether or not the right decision was made one way or the other. There is some concern here, Karl, about Lifespan and Care New England merging and being too big to fail in Rhode Island, being the only real entity. You got Landmark, and you got Charter Care with Roger Williams and St. Joe's and
but
blah blah.
But Dan, you go up into Boston, that healthcare district is the size of our state. So you have
not quite, but I get your point.
You get the point. And the other thing that
what's wrong with that?
Well, there isn't anything wrong with that. If Rhode Island can control that big a monopoly here of these facilities and figuring out who's best at what, normal Rhode Islanders won't mind riding to Providence, riding to Kent, riding to wherever the facility is, if it's state of the art.
There's some interesting antitrust issues that go along with that as well. So it's a very complicated situation. It requires high acumen and complete tenacity on the leadership part of the state, and we don't have it.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that you keep barking the questions that you have, but the business community so far, other than you?
No. The business community's been chiming in with me.
Oh, yeah, where?
Yeah.
Who?
Well,
What?
to me personally.
On your phone call? On your phone?
On my phone.
Yeah. Where's the Rhode Island Manufacturers Association?
Rhode Island Manufacturers.
Where's the Chambers of Commerce?
Chambers of Commerce, I have no idea.
Where's anybody that reflects organization for business in this state?
Well,
arriving here, there, anywhere.
Here's the funny
to talk
thing with
about
that, Dan, is that if I write something or if I'm on one of your shows or something, I'll get 20, 30, 40 emails from some pretty prominent people saying, great.
Yeah, well, respond and say, you know what?
And my response is, you know what?
Get
I
on the
can't
air.
do this alone. Thank you. I can't do this alone. Just say something. I seem to be the sacrificial guy to say this, but I want to say one thing about the Care New England. Care New England. Healthcare doesn't need the infrastructure potentially in 20 years from now that we're going to be, this is our healthcare. This is our healthcare, unless it's something traumatic. This is preventative. So why do we need these big infrastructure things? Just think about it. Think about your car. Think about healthcare. Anyway.
We'll keep the dialogue moving. All of a sudden, he's an expert in healthcare.
No.
Just make vibrators, will you please? We'll be right back. Oh, sometimes behind the scenes here. Anyway, we will follow up. You wouldn't get it. I'm sorry. Very rude. We will follow up on this abortion contentious matter with Senator Lou Raptakis tomorrow, and we'll talk to you at 3 on WPRO. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry about the giggle.